This started about 3 years ago when I was 18. I was using Tinder when some usual rando texted me and we started talking. The usual, what are you doing, what are you up to, etc. Then the rando started to sound depressed about how everyone hated him and occasionally talking about how he should end it all. Me being the nice person that I am, I tried to find something about him that I could compliment and try to make him feel better. That sort of thing, or bring a smile to at the very least. And that's when things began to become heavy. Rando began to lash his anger, telling me that I'm a liar or a user and that I just wanted to make fun of him, and I tried to reassure him that my compliment was genuine. I tried to tell him that I hate to see people down and depressed and like to make them happy because it wasn't my usual nature. Now I had been in his shoes before with severe insecurities, so I know how he felt. After he finally began to feel that my compliments were real, he started to get really attached to me and started berating me with messages. He would send me like 20 messages in one go, and if I didn't reply in 5 seconds, he would be like, "Oh, I guess you find someone better to talk to. You get the rest." It began to get frustrating, and I could have just blocked him to relieve my headache, but I have anxiety and feared that he would turn up at my doorstep and do something drastic if I blocked him. He also started sending me nudes to grab my attention, to reply instantly to his messages, and it got worse and worse from here. Eventually, he told me that he would be in my town soon and talked about meeting somewhere, sometime, and doing something. I didn't reply, and he flipped out and started tapping all of my social accounts, Facebook messages, friend requests, Instagram follows. One night, I went out with some of my friends for a night out, and I forgot that he was in town for the weekend. He saw me walking down the street and came up to me and bawled his eyes out for not replying to him and begged me for my phone number and address and whether he could join us on our night out. And we politely refused. He followed us further and tried forcing drugs into my hand when we got to the bar. Infuriated at how clingy he was, I decided to go back home, only to realize that he boarded the same bus as me and vanished only after he saw the place where I lived. He started texting me on Tinder how he would find me one day and find my friends to get my phone number. This was it, and I finally blocked him. And I thought I was done with it. This whole experience had really put me off dating people who have high insecurities only out of fear that this experience would be repeated. But something like this would happen again. I have been trying to stop over-complimenting people too much out of the fear that this experience would happen again. It has been 3 years, and I haven't seen him since. In the summer of 2012, I met my friend Jerry at Dairy Queen for ice cream. He asked if his friend Jim could meet us, who he had met at the library where he was working at the time. I said, "Yeah, I love meeting new people." Jim comes in with his guitar and starts playing music beautifully. From this encounter, Jim seemed a really chill guy, cool. He did ask me on Facebook a few days later. And that is nothing out of the ordinary. He starts making casual conversations. There is something stranger though. When I met him, he had an accent that I couldn't put a finger on. He told me that he was born and raised in the UK and was a musician there until he moved here at the age of 18. I thought, okay, he doesn't sound like a guy from there, but fine. At that time, I was dating a guy called Tom. Over a few months, Jim was flirting with me, but I made obvious that I was uninterested. And he seemed to get the picture. At this time, the spring semester at the college starts, and Jim is in the same class as me, just a different time. There is a field trip at the museum where both the classes are joined. I noticed Jim and made casual conversation, and then we went our separate ways. That's when I noticed something weird. We were in a massive museum in Chicago, yet I seemed to see Jim lurking everywhere. It really freaked me out. When the trip ended, he messaged me again, getting at it really hard and flirting with me again. I told him that I didn't like the way he was talking, but he continued, and I even ignored him at a point, but he didn't stop. Why I didn't delete him at that time is beyond me. But I digress. I told my boyfriend about him and showed him the messages. Tom asked what his name was and checked his profile. When he saw his profile picture, he gasped and said, "Jim? That is certainly not his name." His name is Stan. We went to the same high school. He is totally insane. I'm in terrible shock right now because now everything has turned to be more horrifying and creepier. Tom told me that Howie did the same thing to his ex-girlfriend. So basically, Stan contacted Tim's ex-girlfriend and fed her the same lines, flirted with her and then stalked her. Tom said that he gave his ex-girlfriend the name John and they both nearly got in a fight, but Stan backed off and switched schools. Tom asked me if he could use my phone to send him a message. Honestly, I was a little reluctant, but Tom showed his high school yearbook and proved that everything was a lie. I can't believe Stan's whole backstory, but did I really have any reason to call him out or question it? I really didn't care until it got scary, and I didn't want to investigate further stalking away. Tom messages him from my account. "Hey Stan, it's me Tom, remember me?" That's when Stan gets hostile. He starts losing his mind and starts getting aggressive, adamantly denying that he is Stan, and Tom sends the photo of the yearbook and tells him not to harass me anymore. He gets mad and says that he will contact the police for harassment and whatnot. And after these absurd accusations, he blocks Tom and I altogether from all social media accounts. Stan was caught by the same guy for the same thing again. I don't know if he wants to steal Tom's girl or something, but this guy definitely is crazy. Who lies about their identity and goes after the same guy's girlfriend over and over again? I am still blocked and hope never to meet you, Stan.
A few years ago, I was down on my luck on the relationship scene. My girlfriend of 3 years had just broken up with me because she had just started dating her boss. And when I found out, I came to know that it had been going on for the last 2 years. Isn't that just peachy? Anyways, I joined Tinder. Something that I am not proud of. I tried to connect with a bunch of girls at home that I can find someone decent while I am down. Don't get me wrong. I am not looking for a quick hookup, but I needed someone to fill that void from the previous relationship. I wanted someone to love. That's when I connected with Christina. She seemed really nice during the messages, and we lived really close to each other. Too close, in fact. And we agreed to meet up at a local restaurant in the week ahead. I was getting really interested. We were messaging all the time, and within a short period of time, it was getting really serious. We went on our date and got on very well, and before long, she started telling me that she loved me. Now, I'm not sure how other people feel about this, but for me, it is a really big deal to admit this. And I certainly wasn't in a position to say it back to her, something which she took very badly. She asked me why I didn't say it back, and me being the straight up guy that I am, simply told her the truth, that I just didn't feel that way. But if she allowed our relationship to grow and nurture, I was sure I would feel the same way with time, and that people move on at a different rate, yada yada yada. She was really unhappy, but to her credit, she tried her best not to make me feel uncomfortable, and we carried on with our date that night. A few weeks later, things heated up a little more. We were moving up to the next level, if you know what I mean, and she ended up staying over at my place that night. I woke up about 3 a.m. to use the toilet, and when I looked, she is not in bed with me. Now, this time being the first time we did the nasties, I wondered if she had just gone home. I wasn't really sure of the perimeter regarding this with her, so I look around and she is nowhere to be seen on the top floor. I go downstairs and the smell of fire catches my nostrils. I look outside my garden and she has taken this metal bin and started a fire. I ran up to her and asked her what the hell she was doing, and she was burning loads of my things. She looked at me with this cold, dead stare, and said, "You can't have any of this. That's why you don't love me, because you keep things that she gave in this house." I was absolutely horrified. I don't know from where she made this assumption. My CDs, DVDs, hell, even my iPhone, and a whole bunch of other stuff were now melting away in this fire. I was horrified, and I told her that she needed to go, and that I was calling the police and the fire department. The fire was put out pretty quickly, and I never spoke to her again. She definitely had several of her screws loose, and I hope that no other man falls for her madness. I took a third job delivering pizzas in New York when I was 25. I had an order in one of these big fancy condominiums downtown. When you have to deliver something in these places, you have to tell the reception the address and confirm it with the resident, and then you can deliver the order. When I was clear, I started heading upstairs when this young guy sauntered up to the front desk and caroused around the lobby. This was a Friday evening, and the lobby was abuzz from the people waiting for a night in the town. This guy was in business casual, and the only thing that made him stand apart was that he was wearing those gaudy visors, the one that those frat guys wore. He jokingly says, "Hey, that's my pizza. I will take it." To which I replied, "Fuck off, pal." I had heard this joke before, and it was especially common in business lobbies like this. That was probably the end of it, and I thought I would never see him again. But the tone of my voice, or the face with which I said it, seemed to have struck a nerve for him. As I was about to enter the elevator, he came up to me and said, "You think you can talk to me like that? Do you know who I am? Is this still a joke? What's going on here? I still have several pizzas in my car, to which if I don't get in 5 minutes after delivering the pizza in the mall parking lot, the valet will have my car towed." I decided to ignore him, but he kept on talking and saying what he does to people like me, and followed me into the elevator crowded with other tenants. I thought this would make him shut up, but he became more agitated and said, "I know what kind of person you are." His eyes gleamed with hatred. He thrust his face in front of me, and I got the first clear look of his face. He was handsome, brown hair, blue eyes, and really white young guy. The crowd of tenants understood he wasn't joking when he said that he could have me killed. He could do it himself too if he wanted. I told him that if he kept this up, I would call the authorities. My stop was on the first floor. He and I were the only ones to get off on that floor. I started looking for the apartment that I had to deliver to, and that guy kept following me saying stuff like that. He hated me and I was a cunt and all that stuff. I knock on a door and a middle-aged man opens the door, and I give him the pizza and the bill, and he pays me and motions towards the crazy guy asking if he will deliver with my friends. I said that I had never met him before and he was following me, and he may have been living in this building, to which the crazy guy said that he lived in that building and I was the one who shouldn't fucking be there. The guy with the pizza told him that he was harassing me and I was just doing my job. I thanked him and started walking back to the elevator, and now there was only one other guy in the elevator. To smooth things out, I asked him where he worked, as he was a good-looking young man, and he said that he worked at the Merc, the New York Mercantile Exchange, and I saw him on the busy trading force. Shouting and signaling about commodities and features flashed in my head. It made sense now. When we reached the lobby, I walked out and he stayed in the elevator, presumably to go to his apartment. When I walked out to the street, I asked the other guy who was with us in the elevator. Typical Wall Street behavior, huh? Sure enough, he says.
I met this friend online this summer before the junior year of high school. I was 16. His name was Josh. We clicked instantly. Our sense of humor matched up, and we very quickly became really good friends. He was a guy, and I a girl. I held no romantic feelings, more so I had a boyfriend. When I was 16, he was 19 and had romantic feelings towards me, and he let me know 6 months into our friendship. He loved me. We didn't have a stable friendship, as he would flip out a lot and would go on extended amounts of time without talking to me. He told me that he couldn't bear to talk to me, knowing that we couldn't be together because I was dating someone else. But I know it was more of a control thing. He wanted to make me feel like I was missing something out. He really hated women. Really, really disliked women and felt most were just users. He told me that I was different, that I was the only true woman he ever met. Real red flag right there. I was young and didn't think much of it. Our friendship was online, instant messaging and FaceTiming. Now, when we stopped talking for some time, he would go to Twitter and demonize me. But when he came back, I would ignore it, as he would come back funny and nice. He had a habit of lashing out at people and making them feel crappy. Another red flag, but I thought I was special and he would never do that to me. I was leading up to my 18th birthday and he said, "When you are 18, you are sending me nudes." I brushed it off as I wasn't going to, but I did notice the dominating tone. Fast forward 2 years, I was 18 and had started going to college and had broken up with my boyfriend in October. Josh took this opportunity to say that he couldn't wait to see me and that if I didn't meet him, he would be over. I had not many feelings for him, but I decided to give it a shot as I couldn't lose him. So I bought plane tickets to where he lived. My parents to this day have no idea about this. I was going on a Friday and would be returning on Monday. I started to feel that I was in love with him and was going to meet the guy I loved. A couple of weeks before going, I started getting cold feel and started hitting off with a guy from a neighboring university. I kissed the guy a day before my flight and decided I didn't have feelings for Josh. I thought that we had been friends for 2 years and he would understand. We could still have a good time as our friendship was worth more. I was naive. When going to the airport, I was certain I didn't love him. And when I reached there, I wanted to leave and never come back. I should have listened to my gut. I saw him outside the airport. He looked malicious and different. I had seen his pictures, but he looked different. He looked creepy here. I hugged him awkwardly, got in his car. We made awkward jokes and conversations. I wished I was in my dorm. We went to his apartment, up into his room, and smoked a few weeds. I fell asleep and woke up to him spooning me and groping me. That's when I unloaded and told him that I was not interested in him in any way romantically. He cried and begged to say that I loved him, and I said that I can't, so went into the bathroom and burned some things and came back normal and played games on his computer. The rest of the trip was just a combination of him being nice and kind to him being completely evil. Here are some of the things he did, or he said he did to me. He talked about me dying, making me sleep in his car, served me spaghetti with moldy sauce, farting on me when I was sleeping, telling my parents I was with him, calling me an idiot, telling me to shut up when I tried to speak, threatened to make me miss my flight and drop me in the middle of nowhere. He kept feeling me up in bed, and when I resisted, he said I wanted it too. When he said these things, I kept my cool and calm, but I was really scared and just wanted to get out of there. It is for 8 p.m., so at 11 a.m. he leaves, and at that time I pack and decide to go to the nearest shopping plaza and take an Uber from there. I ran and was at the end of the street feeling free when 2 arms wrapped around me from behind. He was hugging me. He mumbled something and ran back to his apartment. I ran to the shopping plaza and got an Uber, feeling finally free. I stayed at the airport for 8 hours with nothing to do, but it was better than staying at his place. When I got back, I blocked him from every social media, even LinkedIn. He still tried to contact me for the past 4 months, but luckily I didn't tell him my address. I hope I never meet him again.